In regards to the abstract b-boy presentation in the scene, I think for Southern California in particular, because that's where I'm from and that's what I can kind of speak for, I would pretty much relegate it to myself and Nomak from Sour Patch, who wasn't Sour Patch at the time, but he was slick on the monkey bars. And
so I'm looking online and I'm seeing some things, and I find old pictures of Mike the Cure. Old pictures of Mike the Cure. Like definitely young, high school age Mike the Cure. And my question is, how do we go from Mike, to Mike the Cure? Because I saw like regular hats, Adidas suits, like things that anybody who comes into contact with you years later would be like, what? Mike never owned an Adidas suit. You crazy? It's been, oh, by the way, not to toot my own horn, but I knew not to do a Mike the Cure interview in anything but a black t-shirt.
There you go.
By the way, just to throw that out there. But so how do you transition from that kid that we see in the beginning of breaking to the Mike the Cure that people more know you for, like from an outsider's perspective looking in, the rocker Mike the Cure?
Yeah. It's pretty easy. I think anybody who comes into a scene, they don't ever come in with their own voice, right? You're fresh, you're new, you're an amateur per se to that particular scene or community. And so when I first was exposed to dancing, I only knew what Battle of the Year 96 was telling me. We didn't have the internet, and we didn't have, especially in Arizona, we didn't have this, knowledge. Mind you, I'm a 7th grader, so I have no idea what fashion is. I have no idea what my voice is at this point.
Right.
So I'm more or less mimicking what I see in these videos. And in these videos, you got cats like Wedding B-Boys, you got Enemy Squad, Funky Gross and Griff, and these crews, obviously are kind of centering their fashion and their style around Adidas and Puma and all these tracksuits and things like that. So
it all started back at the beginning of the 20th century, and the Dosla family have just welcomed the last 2 children into their brood. The brothers were seemingly born into their destiny, as their quiet town of Herzogenaurach's main industry was shoemaking. While young Audi was pushed into a baking apprenticeship by his father before he was even a teenager, he was truly passionate about all things sports and how to improve one's athletic performance. But before he could really create a career for himself, Audi was drafted into the war in 1918. He would join Rudy and their older brother Fritz, who had been fighting since the war began. Upon his return in 1919, Audi quickly began formulating a new athletic shoe business. He'd build shoes out of whatever materials he could find, and even created his own bike-powered leather milling machine to use without electricity. Sports clubs in the area would receive samples of the shoes Audi was designing. The coaches and athletes could test them out for themselves, and the orders began rolling in. Rudy joined in on the fun in 1923, and on July 1st, 1924, the pair officially registered their company as Gebrüder Dosler Schuhfabrik, or Dosler Brothers Shoe Manufacturers. Together, they made a killer team. Audi, the quiet brother, was the mastermind behind the shoes, constantly tinkering and redesigning to make each shoe better and better, while Rudy was outspoken and charming, a born salesman with a mind for business. And so the duo embarked on their dream and began producing 50 pairs of athletic shoes a day to be used for soccer and track. And by 1928, they found their shoes at their first Olympic Games, where runner Lina Rodke not only won the gold for 800 meters in Amsterdam, but broke a world record while wearing Gebrüder Dosler shoes. The following year, the brothers registered their first patents. But just 4 years later, the world would change forever. In January 1933, Adolf Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany, and on May 1st of that same year, Audi, Rudy, and their older brother Fritz all joined the Nazi Party. Unbeknownst to the brothers, this single act would eventually lead to the end of their partnership and brotherhood.
In that time, I had to have a tracksuit because that was my way of saying I'm a b-boy, right? But it's a long journey. So throughout that journey, you know, you start to discover your voice. You start to incorporate, well, this is my personality, and I'm going to do things this way because this is what I'm capable of. And so the way I danced, like, I was never able physically to do the traditional movements of the dance. You know, this is the way my body was created. I was only able to do things the way I could physically do things. Otherwise, I'm not going to just run headfirst into a wall and just be non-productive in that sense. So, you know, I was always breaking non-traditionally, you know. I would learn a few things from a traditional foundational aspect, but I was always kind of veering towards the unorthodox, you know, thinking outside the box concepts. And so as time progressed and I moved to California, it became more the style of the people I was hanging around with and the people I was dancing with. It was a untucked dress shirt with Dickies khaki pants or something like that. Kind of like, you know, and then the Velcro shoes, you know, the old man look, and, you know, a cardigan or whatever. And so that was my transition from 97 to California, moving into California, as it transitioned into that. So I wasn't wearing tracksuits. I wasn't wearing, you know, Nike shoes and things like that. If you saw me walking down the street, it looked like a Benjamin Button, right? Like I was just some old man at the age of like 15, right? And then at that point, the movement started to change. Once I got involved in the breaking scene, in 99 to about 2001, the scene kind of, because of Utmost, like I said, there's a lot of contributing factors here. Because of Utmost from Battle Monkeys, his events, they opened the doors for a non-traditional approach to the dance. And so you had a lot more people just kind of taking chances and incorporating that risk factor, not just dancing wise, but persona wise. People weren't getting all geared up to go to jams all the time. You know, people were wearing whatever they wanted to wear. Knuckleheads, California and Las Vegas changed fashion in a particular sense as well, because it became about the tank top shirts with some kind of, you know, athletic pants, and you know, clothes were a little bit tighter, so it gave a little bit more of a formed feel. So things started to change in that aspect. As I started to explore more of what my interests were, mind you, I'm an 80s baby, so I became a little bit more interested in exploring 1970s and 1980s music. So classic rock was big. New wave was huge for me. So I listened to a lot of The Cure. I listened to a lot of Depeche Mode. I listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin. A lot of songs and classics that I feel really is where music nowadays kind of pulls from. But because I was listening a lot more to that, it started influencing how I looked. And so I would wear, the New York Dolls shirts. I would wear, Robert Smith shirts and things like that. And because I was listening to The Cure so much, and at this point, my relationship with Knuckleheads was becoming more solidified, some of the guys in the crew would start to call me Cure. If I'm going to throw down a round, it's like, get 'em Cure, because I was so into that. And so it stuck. And I started to become the Mike the Cure persona. And of course, with that, I started to adopt the more Robert Smith look to my presentation. So because of my interest in film as well, breaking and dance started to become more of a theatrical performance to me. I started looking at more than just the, going out there doing some top rock, hitting the floor, getting up and blah, blah, blah. It became more about the story. It became more about the what am I trying to say in my movement? I started to dig deeper, and I started to think a lot deeper. It was never just a surface value window shopping kind of feel for me. Like I lived it. That's what I guess you can say separates my presentation from many others that are out there. So it started to mold into this, and then as the years progressed, 2002 hit, and that's when Mike the Cure was more or less born for what you would know it as looking like. And that was, of course, the Unsigned Hype Jam thrown by Utmost. So at that event in particular is when I heard of Slick and the Monkey Bars. I didn't quite know who they were. And then a lot of that jam focused on you hearing that there was a battle going on somewhere.
For more quality content from Beyond the Cypher with Illskillz, don't forget to press the like and subscribe buttons. Also, feel free to follow us on Facebook and IG at Beyond the Cypher. Let us know how we're doing in the comment section, and to make sure you don't miss anything from the channel, smash that notification bell. We appreciate the love and support. Peace. Until the next episode.